You're going to learn how to profit from things that only make most people poorer. This is Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold.
Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold. This is GRE. Economies of scale are a substantial advantage that larger apartment buildings have over rental single-family homes, and there certainly are some other advantages as well, but I want to talk about the advantages of rental single-family homes, advantages that rental single-family homes have that you've probably never thought about before. First of all, you might be wondering, can I scale up? Can I make this substantial? Well, the short answer is yes, fairly. If you are single, you can purchase 10 rental single-family homes at the best rates and terms. You can buy even more than that, but the financing gets less advantageous. If you're married, you and your spouse can qualify for 20 single-family homes. If you happen to have a loan on your primary residence, well, that means you could get 9 more rentals if you're single and 19 more if you're married between you and your spouse. In fact, I've now been investing directly in rental real estate for nearly 19 years, which is crazy to think about and say out loud. I invest in both larger apartment buildings and rental single-family homes, and I continue to add rental single-family homes. And maybe you're thinking, as a somewhat veteran real estate investor here, are single-family homes too small for me? The answer is no, because they have all these advantages. Look, a rate of return of anything less than 20 to 25% annually in rental real estate is actually disappointing when you add up all the ways that you're paid: appreciation, cash flow, loan paydown made by the tenant, tax benefits, and the inflation profiting that you get on the long-term fixed interest rate debt. So, a lot of people like to project what the return is going to be, but I'm talking about actual forensics. When I look back in time and see what's actually performed better for me, often it's rental single-family homes. The first advantage of rental single-family homes over apartment buildings is tenant quality. You tend to attract a better quality of tenant to a single-family home than you do an apartment building, and this is really important to you. Imagine, for example, if you self-manage, how important this is. It tends to be a more capable tenant. If the pilot light goes out in your furnace, they're more likely to have the knowledge and the wherewithal to go ahead and reignite that themselves and not bother you. Importantly, since you get a better quality of tenant, tenants tend to take better care of the premises than an apartment dweller does. The next one is that the places tend to be in a better neighborhood when you have a single-family home rather than an apartment building. Thirdly, rental single-family homes generally tend to appreciate better over time. Fourthly, rental single-family homes are more likely to be in a better school district than larger apartment building school districts are. That's one distinct advantage. And when you roll all of these 4 things together, better tenant quality, better neighborhood, better appreciation, better school district, you know what? You tend to get better retention. Tenants tend to stay longer when they're renting a single-family home than they do an apartment building for all those reasons, like a better neighborhood and a better school district and so on. And the other thing that one needs to keep in mind is that when you rent a single-family home, it kind of feels more like your own. There aren't any common areas, there aren't any shared laundry rooms or anything like that. And when a place feels more like your own, you are likely to stay there longer. Commonly, I get tenants in my rental single-family homes that stay there for about 3 years, and in rental apartment buildings, it's probably something closer to 18 months, so about half that period of time. And as any real estate investor knows, the thing that kills your cash flow is having that vacancy period and that turnover when you have to do make-ready expenses to get the unit ready for the next tenant. And what about those common areas? Well, in an apartment building, you do have those common areas like hallways and stairways and a laundry room. A custodian needs to stop by the property and not only pick up the trash around on the outside. Again, it's common areas, kind of the tragedy of the commons, these shared spaces on the outside that need to be cleaned up and maintained, but also on the inside. That is a commonly overlooked profit drag for apartment investors. And again, this is not some sort of manifesto on why apartment buildings are always bad. Again, I invest in both single-family homes and apartment buildings, but these are just a lot of the unfortunate unforeseen things that really make single-family homes often better than apartment buildings. Hey, if you like this, if you're learning something, put a YouTube like on this video if you would. You sure don't have to, but whether you like apartment buildings more or whether you like single-family rental homes more, I would really appreciate the like on this video. That's instructive to me. It helps me know that this is indeed the type of content that you like. The next one is utilities. In single-family rental homes, tenants typically pay the utilities, the electricity, the natural gas, any sort of heat, the trash. See, all these utilities, since they pay them themselves, they don't run up the bill. They don't leave a window open for ventilation when it's 30 degrees Fahrenheit out. Well, the larger an apartment building is, the more likely those utility costs are borne on you, the investor. I can think of some apartment buildings I own in cold places right now, and I do see those windows wide open. I know I'm paying the heating bill, and it's really hard to do very much about that without a tenant feeling like they're being intruded upon. So utility costs are another advantage of the single-family rental home investor. The next one is something that I call divisibility, another single-family advantage. And imagine if you own 10 rental units that you rent to 10 families. Well, if you own 10 single-family rental homes, say that over time you notice one or two that are underperforming financially. That does happen sometimes. Well, what you can do is you can just sell off the one or two that aren't performing well, and you still own 8 or 9, and then you can go look to replace the laggards with ones that you're getting more profit from in the future. But see, if you own 10 units and they're all in one apartment building, and that's underperforming or it's overperforming or whatever it's doing, you have to make the decision to either sell the entire thing or hold on to the entire thing. So you don't have this choice. You can't easily sell pieces off if they're all in one apartment building. You don't have that advantage of what I like to call divisibility, where you can tune up and make your portfolio better. It's similar if there's a fire. Now, a fire is typically an insurable event, but if you've got, say 9 or 10 units all in one building, of course it only takes a mistake from one person, and then that can be a diffuse fire condition that spreads into other units. In a single family home, that's more easily controlled and it's only going to affect one family. And then another one I touched on earlier, this is a huge one, are the financing advantages that single family rental homes have over apartment buildings. With apartment buildings, typically you cannot get 30-year loans with 30-year amortizations without some kind of balloon payment being in there. On my apartment buildings, for example, from the time I bought them, they have a balloon loan where within 7 to 10 years, depending on the loan type I got, you need to pay that entire mortgage balance in full. And you also have shorter amortizations. You might not get a full 30-year amortization. And with apartment buildings, you nearly always pay a substantially higher interest rate than you do with rental single-family homes. So these rental single-family homes, you can get loans on them that are very much like what you're used to in your primary residence. Let's talk about vacancy rate. It is true that some people say if you have, say, a 4-plex apartment building and one unit is vacant, well, you still have 75% occupancy, and that's true, and that does matter. But you know what? The same is true if you had 4 single-family homes. If one of them is vacant, you still have 75% occupancy. It is true, though, if you only had one rental single-family home and it's not occupied, then it is 100% vacancy that you have there until you get another tenant in there. But as you add scale, as you add more property, as you add more single-family homes, you get more ballast and stability to your portfolio. Let's talk about property management. Do you like to hire professionals or do you like to do it yourself? I choose to hire professional property management, whether I own in my own hometown, which I do, or if I own several states away, I use a manager just the same. But whether you self-manage or you get professional management, a property manager is more likely to want to take on single-family income property tenants because you do have a better tenant quality. They're just easier to manage over time. They're more responsible, as well as being a higher quality tenant. Let's look at supply and demand. Right now, rental single-family demand greatly outstrips this underwhelming lack of supply that we have. Freddie Mac estimates we're about 2.5 million housing units undersupplied. The chart that you're looking at here shows the current number of available homes for sale. We're talking about single-family homes, condos, and townhomes here. Typically we're between 1 and 1.5 million. Today there are only about 1/2 million available. That's incredibly low on a historical basis. So with demand exceeding supply, that portends well toward longer term appreciation of your rental single family homes, and with low interest rates, it's a great time to load up on them if you can get some. If you own a 10-unit apartment building, that is only going to be in one location, in one metro market. Therefore, it's subject to the whims and the ups and downs of that market's and that submarket's economic fortunes. If there's an economic downturn in that market and tenants lose jobs, they can't pay the rent. The market is more important than the property. Even though we're talking about properties here, you gotta remember that the market is more important than the property, because typically you buy these properties for income. Income comes from tenants tied to a job market. But if you had 10 single family homes, well, you could have 4 of those homes in Memphis, 3 of them in Dallas, and 3 of them in Jacksonville. So since the market is more important than the property, now you are diversified because you do have 10 different units. You as an investor, you need to begin with the end in mind. When it comes time for you to sell your property down the road, hopefully after handsome years of appreciation and cash flow and loan pay down that the tenant made for you and tax breaks that you're writing off on your taxes and you tying up long-term fixed interest rate debt and getting an inflation profiting benefit, when it's time for you to exit, finally, your exit strategy. Well, when you have an apartment building, oftentimes you have to hope that you're in a really good economy and a really good market, because whomever you're selling to, and you've got to begin with the end in mind, they need to make sure that the numbers work, because you'd be selling your 10-unit apartment building to another investor. But over here with single family homes, you have multiple exit strategies, because you probably aren't even going to be selling that home to an investor, though you could, but you're probably going to be selling that single family home to an owner occupant. So to them, it doesn't matter whether the rent income exceed the expenses or anything like that, because oftentimes they have emotions tied up in the property. So you can sell your single family home to a homeowner family, an owner occupant. And you know another exit strategy that you have when you sell your single family rental home down the road, and this happens oftentimes, you might very well sell it to your tenant. They might want to make that their first home if it's indeed time for you to sell, and there's just no way that most tenants are going to be able to afford a 10-unit apartment building over here. So begin with the end in mind. It's about your exit strategy with rental single family homes. Hey, if you like this video, go ahead and put a YouTube like on it. That really helps me know what kind of content to design for you. I would really appreciate the YouTube like. I've loved talking about the advantages of single family rental homes, a personal favorite of mine. I always want to keep at least 10 of those. I hope you find that you like them, and maybe you will too. Again, I'm Keith Weinhold. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Americans are not saving for retirement. It's going to get worse as people live longer, so you need to think differently, but you can't lose your time. Real estate is the investment vehicle that has created more million and billionaires than anything else. Get Rich Education is one of America's top investing shows disrupting Wall Street. Your host, Keith Weinhold, is a true financial educator and has been an income property investor since 2002. Get Rich Education has created millions in passive monthly income for its followers. Now, Keith has a free book, The 7 Money Myths That Are Killing Your Wealth Potential. Get your copy now at getricheducation.com/book. Invest in what produces income for you now and later. Use the link in the description to download for free The 7 Money Myths That Are Killing Your Wealth Potential. Get Rich Education is on every podcasting platform and has its own native iOS and Android apps. Join Get Rich Education Nation to create financial freedom through real estate investing. Subscribe wherever you listen.